Okay, here are some red velvet cupcakes with a cream cheese frosting. The full recipe is on my blog at www.howtomakecakes.co.uk. Red velvet cakes are an American tradition made famous in the Steel Magnolias film, where a red velvet cake was used as a wedding cake, but more traditionally now they're made as cupcakes with a cream cheese frosting, and we'll come on and do the cream cheese frosting later. First of all, let's start with what we need for these cakes. So we need some unsalted butter, 90 grams. It's very important to get that at room temperature so that it's soft when you start to use it. We've got 225 grams of caster sugar. We have 2 medium eggs, 30 grams of cocoa. We're going to need half a teaspoon of a vanilla extract and 1 tablespoon of red food colouring. That's what gives it actually its red colouring. 225 grams of self-raising flour. Some recipes use plain flour. I like to use self-raising flour. Then we have 3/4 teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda. And the important ingredient, 165 millilitres of buttermilk, which you can get at most supermarkets. So the first thing you do is to beat your butter and sugar together. I'm using a Kenwood Chef. Any electric whisk is fine. So you put your softened butter in and add your sugar. And then you just whisk that until it goes light and fluffy. So when it's whisked together, it should be much lighter in colour, and as you can see, it's much lighter and fluffier. So do that first, and then you add in your eggs. I like to do this fairly slowly whilst having the machine on. So add the 2 eggs, one at a time. Again, this can all be done using an electric hand whisk. So when that's whisked together, it just looks like that. So then in a separate bowl, we're going to have the cocoa, and we're going to mix in some vanilla extract, of which we're going to use half a teaspoon. A good quality vanilla extract is important. And then using a lot of red food colouring. You're actually using 40 millilitres of red food colouring, which is actually a whole one of those and a little bit more. So measure out your 40 millilitres and mix that into the cocoa mixture. And this is what gives the velvet cupcakes their red velvety colour. So once you've got this to a nice thick, deep red paste, this is then what we mix into the pre-prepared butter, sugar and egg mixture. So that all goes in, and you can see now where the cakes get their deep velvety colour from. So once that's all mixed together, we're going to add in half of the buttermilk. Don't worry about measuring it, it's just roughly half of the buttermilk. Then once you've done that, you're just going to add in half of your flour and then repeat that process. So again, roughly half of your flour, mix it together, and then we'll repeat again with the buttermilk and the flour. And then once you've mixed all the buttermilk and flour and you're just adding your final ingredient, which is your bicarbonate of soda, just put that in. It's important just to start this off on a very slow speed, just to mix it in. So whether you're using a hand whisk or something like this, just slowly, and then you can just whiz it up a bit, and your mix is done. Just as you can see, it's a nice deep red colour, which will look great once it's cooked. So get everything off there. I'll just get everything off around the side of the bowl. I like to do a final mix by hand. So in terms of the cases, I like to use a deep bun tin. This is one of the silicone ones, but any will do. And you want a nice big muffin case. I mean, these are just plain white ones. You can get silver ones, gold ones if it's for a special occasion. But this way they go right inside and they keep the cake's shape as they cook. So what we need to do then is divide the mixture amongst the cases. You want to fill them about 2/3 full. So trying to avoid touching the sides, just put your mixture in about 2/3 full, and then repeat that for all of the cases here. So once you divide it amongst the mixture, as I said, about 2/3 full, I managed to get 18 out of this recipe. So here's 12 of them, which we'll put in the oven. The oven should be preheated to 170 degrees centigrade, which is 325 Fahrenheit or gas mark 3. If you have a fan oven, then you should not put it on the fan setting, but put it on the standard setting, because cakes cook much better like that. Put this straight onto the shelf, and they should take about 20 minutes. I'd normally set the timer for, say, 18 minutes, so that you can just check them at 18 minutes, see how they're doing, and I'll show you how to test them when we come back. So hopefully these are now ready. We'll just check them again. That's coming out nice and firm. Coming out totally clean. We'll just try a couple of them. Yeah, they look done, and look at the lovely deep red colour of those. They look great. So we'll take those out. On here, I just like to let them cool for a couple of minutes still in here. It helps keep the shape and stop them coming away from the sides, and then we'll cool them on the rack before we put the cream cheese frosting on. So now we've got the cakes, we need to make the topping, and what's traditional with these red velvet cupcakes is to have a cream cheese topping. So what we've got here is we've got 200 grams, which is a tub of cream cheese. Any sort can be used, and it can be the full fat or the low fat variety. Some butter, 75 grams of butter, unsalted again, room temperature, and then a lot of icing sugar. There's 450 grams here. It's important to sieve it first, because this will, it needs to be like that, otherwise it stays a bit lumpy. It looks to be a huge amount, but once you start mixing it up, it's fine. So what we do is we, first of all, put all the icing sugar back in the bowl. Again, you can use an electric whisk, or you can use a Kenwood Chef. Add in the butter, and that will get mixed together first of all, and then we add the cream cheese. So the first thing to do is to mix this together. And just mix that up a bit together, and then add the cream cheese all at once into there. And this will be a really nice cream cheese frosting. Get all the cream cheese out. And then again, we'll just turn that on and whisk it all up. So once it's all whisked up, you need to whisk it fairly on a fairly high speed at the end, but be careful not to do it for too long. You'll tell when it's all mixed together, it just looks nice and runny. And then I like to just add a drop of vanilla essence, because I think it just gives it a nice vanilla taste. So at just this stage, I'll just pour in a little bit of vanilla essence and mix that in, and it'll give it a great vanilla taste. Now, there are various ways that you can put this on. Some people pipe it on, some people just mix it on with a spoon. It's up to you, however you want to do it. And one thing I'm going to do with this cake, I'm going to just take one of these cakes and crumble it up. And I'm going to use these crumbs to go on top of the cream cheese. It gives quite a nice look. So the way you can just get a spoon, get a nice dollop full, put it on the top, and just swirl it round. Swirl it round. And then you get a few of your cake crumbs, sprinkle them on the top, and there you have one of your cakes. Don't forget, the full recipe is on my blog site, which is www.howtomakecakes.co.uk. and there will be more videos on there, so please come back and look for other recipes.